Grandma's 45 Vaseline hacks that will blow your mind and make your life easier. You think Vaseline is just an old grease cream? Wrong. Our grandma knew 45 hacks you definitely don't know yet, and they'll make your life easier right away. But beware, one of them is so brilliant that you'll wonder why you haven't been using it all along. If you want more of these brilliantly simple everyday hacks, subscribe to the channel now before you forget. And now have fun with the 45 Vaseline hacks that would have even blown Grandma's mind. Eyelash care. Grandma didn't need a serum with gold particles. She reached for Vaseline, gently brushed a little over her lashes, with a calmness that's rare today. Overnight, the grease protected the fine hairs, made them supple, let them shine like fresh dew in the morning light. If you do this regularly, you'll notice the lashes thank you, quietly but visibly, just like back then, just proven. Reduce dark circles. In the morning, Grandma always looked rested, even if sleep was short. Her secret wasn't in herbal tea, but under her eyes. A touch of Vaseline, very carefully patted in. The skin became soft, held moisture like a well-kept secret. Dark circles were rarely an issue. Today they call it hydro-lock effect. Back then, it was simply being smart without much fuss. Seal split ends. Grandma rarely cut her hair. Instead, in the evening, she rubbed a tiny fingertip of Vaseline into the ends, without haste. The braids held, the hair shone, even without a hairdresser. Today we call it split-end sealing. Back then, it was common sense. If you try it, you'll feel the difference right away. The ends thank you quietly. And you'll realize, sometimes less is truly more. Tame eyebrows. The brows were Grandma's pride. With a steady hand, she shaped them in the morning. A touch of Vaseline on an old brush. The hairs stayed where they should, shone subtly in the light, and everything lasted for hours. Today they call it brow styling. Back then, it was part of the morning routine, as natural as coffee and an apron. You see it, you feel it, you don't forget it. Lip scrub. Grandma's lips were never chapped. She took a little sugar, mixed it with Vaseline, and massaged the mixture in circular motions, gently, carefully, almost reverently. Afterward, the lips shone like freshly polished, soft as peach skin. No store-bought product could match it. It was simple, effective, honest, and it still works today. If you try it, you'll feel right away what cared-for lips really mean, without shine promises, just with effect. Remove makeup. When the day ended, Grandma didn't reach for a bottle with fragrances. She took Vaseline, massaged it into the skin with a steady hand, and simply wiped the day away. Even the most stubborn mascara melted like snow in April. Afterward, the face was clean, soft, content. So simple, so effective, and it still works today, without any big drama. Prevent blisters. New shoes meant not just pride, but often pain. The heel rubbed, the toe pressed, and in the evening the bandage stuck. But Grandma had a hack ready, a touch of Vaseline directly on the skin. Then you walked off like on clouds, even in stiff leather shoes. So simple, so effective. If you've experienced it once, you know. Breaking in starts not in the shoe, but with a dip into the jar. Make lipstick. At the kitchen table stood a small mirror, next to it a little plate with Vaseline and crumbled eyeshadow. Grandma mixed her own lipstick, sometimes rosewood, sometimes raspberry, depending on her mood. It was quiet creativity, without chemicals. The color lasted, the lips stayed soft. No uniform red, but a shade that suited her. If you try it today, you'll quickly notice. Beauty can be simple, and sometimes it starts with a spoon and an idea. Cuticle care. Grandma's hands had history, and yet her cuticles were always soft. In the evening, by the stove, she massaged Vaseline into each finger, thoughtfully, almost like a ritual. The skin stayed supple, the nail could grow as it wanted. If you do this today, you'll feel care start small. A quiet moment, a drop of grease, and the realization that hands tell more when you don't hurt them. Heal cracked heels. In the evening, Grandma sat on the stool, feet in the wash basin, pumice stone at hand. Then came Vaseline, thickly spread on the heels, white socks over it, and that was the night shift for soft skin. In the morning, the cracks were erased, the soles smooth as once in May. If you try it, you'll quickly notice. That's how you care for feet that carry you through life. Care for dry elbows and knees. Grandma's elbows were never gray. Every evening she rubbed them with Vaseline, slowly, almost ceremoniously. The knees got their share too. Not out of vanity, but out of respect for her own body. The skin stayed soft, the tissue supple. No flaking, no tearing. Just cared for areas where others had rough patches. Today we scroll through creams. Back then, you reached for the tin. And the effect was noticeable, then as now. Wind protection for the face. When the wind whistled through the alleys, Grandma didn't reach for an excuse, but for Vaseline, a thin film on cheeks and nose, and the cold bounced off like rain on oil. The Vaseline ensured soft skin, even after hours in the frost. Red outside, rosy inside. It was that simple. And while we layer serums today, she had the best protection long ago, in the cupboard right next to the Zwieback. Smooth legs after shaving. After shaving, Grandma didn't reach for the perfume bottle. She took Vaseline, spread it with warm hands on the legs, slowly, almost reverently. The skin shone, stayed supple until the next morning. No burning under the skirt, just calm on the skin and a quiet feeling of care. Today they call it aftercare. Back then it was simply smart. If you try it, you'll feel that's what real care feels like. Make perfume last longer. Grandma wore her scent like a memory, a touch behind the ear, one on the wrist, Vaseline first. Just a little, enough to make the scent stay. For hours. It mixed with her skin, not the air. Today we spray too much, she knew. Less scent, set right. That lasts. And works. Skin protection, when dyeing hair. When Grandma toned her hair, she did it with comb, gloves, and a quiet hack. Vaseline along the forehead. A narrow strip, almost invisible, but effective. The color stayed in the hair, not on the skin. After rinsing, the mirror stayed clean and the face too. Today they call it dye protection. Back then, it was preparation. And once you do it, you'll never want to without. Keep manicure clean. When Grandma painted her nails, the edges were spotless. Beforehand, she drew Vaseline around the nail bed with a cotton swab. A calm line, almost like framing a picture. The color sat precisely, everything around it wiped off easily. She did it without effort, but with system. So every brush stroke became an exercise in patience, and the manicure looked like she'd learned it. But it was just experience, and a dab of grease. Get rid of pigment spots. A teaspoon of Vaseline, a splash of lemon, that's all Grandma needed for her complexion. She stirred, applied, let it work. No effort, but effect. The skin got shine, the spots quietly faded into the background. Day by day, without haste. It was care with common sense and citrus scent. If you have patience, you'll notice. Sometimes beauty arises not in the mirror, but in the silence in between, and from two ingredients that almost everyone has at home. Lubricant zippers. When the zipper stuck, Grandma didn't reach for pliers. She took Vaseline, spread it with a stick over the teeth, and pulled the zipper back and forth a few times. Then it ran smoothly again, in the truest sense. No jerking, no cursing. Just a quiet click and a satisfied look. A simple move, quiet and effective. And once again, something was saved that others would have given up on long ago. Make drawers and wood rails glide. The old dresser in the bedroom, it always stuck on the third drawer. But Grandma didn't fiddle long. A dab of Vaseline on the gliding surfaces, pushed open and closed 2 or 3 times, and it ran like new. No more squeaking, just that quiet, supple gliding that satisfies so much. No new furniture, but an old one that worked again. And that's where her pride lay, in preserving, not replacing. Remove sticker and label residues. When Grandma emptied a jam jar, she didn't pull at half the label. She got her Vaseline, smeared the glue residue, and let it rest. After a few minutes, she wiped everything away, completely residue-free, without scratching. The jar went into the pantry, ready for new things. If you think like that, you throw less away. And understand, even glue residues tell stories until someone finishes them. Leather care with Vaseline. When Grandma's leather shoes lost their shine, she didn't get a miracle product. She took Vaseline, rubbed it in circular motions, let the leather drink. Then she polished with an old cloth that had seen a lot. In the end, the shoes shone like Sunday. It wasn't effort, but attention. If you treat things like that, you'll enjoy them longer. And understand, care is often quiet, but never in vain. Polish wood furniture. The old kitchen table had scratches from everyday life, dull spots from life. But Grandma made it shine. She took a cloth, some Vaseline, and worked with a steady hand. Circle by circle, the wood came alive. The grain emerged like a familiar face. If you love furniture, you don't just polish the surface. You preserve stories. And sometimes a rag and a bit of grease is enough for that. Prevent candle wax residues. When Grandma's candle burned down, nothing stuck. Because beforehand, she had spread a touch of Vaseline in the holder. The wax could later be lifted out with 2 fingers, smooth as butter from the mold. Without scratching or soaking. Just with a move that saved annoyance. That's how she thought. Don't fight afterward. Be smart beforehand. And once you do it, you'll wonder why you don't always do it that way. Eliminate squeaking in wood chairs. When the chair creaked under you, Grandma didn't ignore it. She laid it on its side, felt the wobbly spot, and smeared some Vaseline into the wood. A few movements later, there was silence. It was never loud with her, just quietly determined. If you treat things like that, you'll soon hear, every piece of furniture has its language, and sometimes it just needs a bit of grease to calm it. Protect car terminals from corrosion. When the car wouldn't start in the morning, Grandma didn't curse. She opened the hood, unscrewed the poles, and applied Vaseline. Calmly, systematically. The grease protected from moisture, the current flowed again, and the car did what it should. A small move with big effect. If you think like that, you'll drive longer, and understand that maintenance sometimes smells like home remedy and not like motor oil. Repair shoelace ends. When the shoelace said goodbye, not completely, but at the end, then finesse was needed. Instead of buying new ones right away, you got Vaseline. A bit on the tip, rolled between fingers, and the thread could be threaded again. Grandpa always said, a good knot starts with a firm end, and if you've done it yourself, you know how much such a small hack can save you. Protect shoes from water. When rain pounded, Grandma didn't take off the good shoes. She rubbed them with Vaseline beforehand, with an old cloth, evenly and thoughtfully. The leather became darker, more supple, and the water beat it off like on waxed wood. So the foot stayed dry, the shoe nice, and the day undisturbed. Once you've done it, you walk through the rain differently, not hastily, but with the reassuring feeling of being well prepared. Protect dog paws. Before the dog went out, Grandma reached for Vaseline, a small dab on each paw, carefully massaged in. So the salt stayed out, the frost too. The pads stayed soft, the dog ran bouncily through snow and grit. After the walk, she wiped everything off as if it were the most natural thing. If you treat animals like that, you think ahead, and provide protection with simple means that you don't see, but feel. Make light bulbs easier to screw in. Before Grandma let a light bulb be screwed in, she spread a touch of Vaseline on the thread. Not for fun, but foresight. Years later, the same bulb could be unscrewed easily, without cursing, without force. It was a quiet hack that saved annoyance. If you think like that, you plan in moves, and if you lubricate foresightedly, you don't have to fiddle with pliers and anger later. Loosen stuck rings. On hot summer days, Grandma's fingers sometimes swelled. The gold ring she wore daily wouldn't come off then. Instead of pulling, she reached for Vaseline. A dab, a gentle twist, a small tug, and the ring was free. It seemed almost magical, but it was just smart care. That's how she prepared when others were still looking for solutions, and the finger thanked her quietly. Prevent nail polish bottles from sticking. Grandma had her nail polishes in the cupboard next to the sewing kit. When she painted, she reached for Vaseline afterward. A touch around the thread, with a steady hand. The lid could be opened later, like on the first day. Everything went smoothly, even after weeks. She just thought ahead, without big words. Today, it's a quiet move with big effect. If you know it, you save annoyance. And keep the polish, instead of losing your nerve. Remove splinters. While working in the shed, you quickly got a splinter. But Grandma didn't reach for the needle right away. First came Vaseline. She rubbed the spot, gave the skin a moment to soften. Then, a calm grip, and the splinter came out. The pain was barely worth mentioning. With finesse and foresight, she turned an annoying thing into a move that seemed almost casual. Furniture polish for wood. The old kitchen cabinet, once oak, now dull. Grandma took a cloth, rubbed Vaseline in, with circular motions like a ritual. The scent of wood and warmth hung in the air. After a few minutes, the wood shone like freshly oiled. The grain came alive as if the furniture were breathing, from dull to radiant. That's how she cared for things close to her heart, quietly, thoroughly, lovingly. Fur care for pets. Back then, if the dog's fur looked dull or the cat scratched constantly, Grandma smiled quietly. A touch of Vaseline between the palms, then gently stroked over the fur, as if writing affection into the coat. Afterward it shone, soft as fresh down. A small hack that still ensures relaxed animals and satisfied people when brushing today. Care for leather goods. Back then, Grandpa's leather shoes always lay shining by the bed, like freshly polished but never sticky or greasy. The secret, a little Vaseline on a soft cloth, rubbed in small circles, then polished until the leather looked alive again. Cracks disappeared, edges softened. Even the old briefcase looked like new. Leather wasn't just material, it had character, and Vaseline was the quiet helper that preserved it. Remove makeup stains. A dark foundation stain on the blouse collar that happened quickly when changing in front of the mirror. Grandma always had a hack for that. A little Vaseline on a cloth, gently massaged in, wait briefly, and the dirt was gone. The fabric stayed nice. For her, it wasn't drama, but routine. With Vaseline, even a makeup mishap became a quiet sideshow of everyday life. Protect door seals. When the frost clinked outside and the car was frozen in the morning, Grandma didn't use force, but Vaseline. With a steady hand, she spread some on the rubber seals. An unassuming move that protected doors from freezing shut. Nothing stuck, nothing tore. The rubber stayed soft, the metal intact. Once you've done it, you understand why some moves in old hands seem like rituals. Simple, smart, effective. Protection from sports chafing. When hiking through fields, hours in the saddle, or in new sneakers, it rubbed, it burned, it chafed. But Grandma knew, a dollop of Vaseline where fabric meets skin, and everything ran smoothly. The skin stayed intact, the day unspoiled. Before sports, after getting up, just rub in. This simple move has accompanied generations and elegantly stopped every painful chafe spot. Protect bike screws from rust. Before spring came, Grandpa's bike stood propped in the yard. He wiped every screw, checked every thread, and then a bit of Vaseline. It kept rain, mud, and even winter away. The screws stayed easy to turn, the bike always ready. While others cursed when nothing worked, he rode off as if it had been oiled yesterday. A simple hack, deeply rooted in the art of long-term care. Oil sewing machine. When the old Singer model hummed like clockwork, you knew someone had taken care. A dab of Vaseline in the right spots, where gears mesh, where metal turns. The machine ran quietly, the fabric flowed through like on its own. Grandma sat by the window, the spool turned, and it smelled a bit of oil and craftsmanship. Maintenance meant attention back then, and Vaseline was always at hand. Care for craft knives. When Dad sat at the craft table, paper rustled, the cutter snipped. The blade glided smoothly. Why it ran so well, he revealed almost casually. A touch of Vaseline, he said, just a little, but in the right spot. So everything stayed easy, even after years. The blade retracted like on the first day. If you felt that once, you won't forget. Precision often starts with a tiny move. Care for fishing gear. Early morning at the lake. Fog over the water and the coffee scent still in the air. Grandpa checked the reel, turned the crank, pulled the line through the rings. A touch of Vaseline on metal and joints. So nothing rusts, nothing sticks. The gear shone, even after years. If you fish, you know. Patience is important. If you care, you save annoyance. And Vaseline was as natural to him as the worm on the hook. Thread sewing, thread. Easier. Grandma sat at the kitchen table, glasses on the tip of her nose, needle in one hand, thread in the other. And if it frayed again, she reached for the little tin. A touch of Vaseline, stroked once over the tip, rolled between fingers. Zap in. If you know it, you understand why sewing was so meditative back then. Sew buttons. Easier. When a button was off, it wasn't replaced. It was sewn, firmly, at the kitchen table, with a steady hand and a thread that glided through the fabric like on its own thanks to Vaseline. Grandma smiled as the thread ran like clockwork. Everything fit, everything held. Today, it seems like magic, but back then it was craftsmanship, patience, and a tiny knack with big effect. Polish jewelry. Back then, the old jewelry lay in a tin box on the cupboard, slightly tarnished, but full of memories. A dab of Vaseline gently worked in with the cloth handkerchief, and suddenly Grandma's brooch shone like at her confirmation. It smelled like Sunday, like floor wax and warm cake. Every move had weight, every shine a piece of history. If you've experienced it, you understand why you polish some things instead of throwing them away. There's more in it than just metal. And if an old hack from your grandma came to mind while watching, be sure to write it in the comments. We collect, marvel, and share further. Give the video a heart if you felt transported back, and subscribe to the channel for more forgotten everyday wisdom. Tried and true, newly discovered just like Vaseline.